I was but halfway through my earthly indulgences at the massage parlor yesternight when my eyes fluttered open to find myself laid within the imperial carriage of Qin Shi Huang. Without, Zhao Gao was commanding the execution of the young eunuch who dared report the emperor's passing, and conspiring with Li Si to forge the royal edict in favor of Hu Hai. Both believed my mortal coil to have fully expired, that for 2 days my corpse had laid festering. The yellow sands swirled, reflecting the cold gleam of black armor sweeping across the dunes of Shakyu. A winding dragon of near 10,000 elite vanguards of Great Qin stretched beyond the horizon. The gold leaf adorning the imperial carriage trembled and crumbled beneath the thunderous pounding of horse hooves. The young eunuch, who but moments ago had scrambled and crawled from the carriage, crying out that his majesty had ascended to the heavens, had already been hewn to pieces by the merciless blades of the black armored guard. Crimson blood splattered upon Zhao Gao's darkly brocaded eunuch robes. His gaunt, sinister visage was wrinkled as a sun-ryed husk. Whosoever dares spread rumors shall suffer the execution of their 9 kinships. I lay upon the 9 dragon cushions of the imperial carriage, my mind still shrouded in a heavy fog. Believing that a historical play was merely being staged without, I kept my eyes closed to eavesdrop upon their words. From beyond the veil came Li Si's voice, suppressing a fearful tremble. Zhao Gao, how fares his majesty in truth? Lord Chancellor Li Si, his majesty hath passed. Before my mind could grasp the weight of these words, I heard Li Si's voice suddenly spike in pitch, struggling the jade pendants hung upon the carriage into a frantic chiming. What? Did his majesty not consume the elixir of immortality? Why? Why didst thou not inform me sooner? This is a calamity that shall bring the very heavens crashing down. It was precisely the elixir of immortality that brought about his majesty's demise. Mayhap 'tis a vile plot, a conspiracy wrought by the sects and the remnant rebels of the 6 defeated kingdoms. If we do not make haste to Xi'an to secure the throne, the Great Qin Empire shall fall to ruin. I listened to this exchange with profound amusement, musing upon how audacious the playwright of this historical drama must be. In the very next moment, I heard the trembling voice of Li Si inquire, "How long hath it been since disaster befell his majesty?" 2 days. 2 days. 2 days. 'Tis the end. We are doomed. The Great Qin is lost. As I listened to this with great amusement, I suddenly sensed that something was gravely amiss. Why did it seem as though the departed emperor of whom they spoke was none other than myself? Ere I could fully comprehend this predicament. Under such dire circumstances, thou and I have no choice but to make a decision without delay. What decision? Let us join forces to crown Prince Hawaii as emperor.
Crown Prince Hawaii?
But His Majesty's prior decree was to bestow the throne upon Prince Fuzi. And how fare thine relations with Fuzi? As incompatible as fire and water. Then there is thine answer. His Majesty's imperial seal rests upon his very person. We may seize the seal at any given moment and alter His Majesty's final edict. Zhao Gao's voice brimmed with arrogant triumph. I listened, my brows furrowing in deep displeasure. I was just about to sit up to see which theatrical troupe possessed such impudence, when a frigid, mechanical voice suddenly thundered within my mind. Ding. Congratulations, host. Thou hast awakened the sacrificial system. Through sacrifice, the host may reap systemic rewards. All creation betwixt heaven and earth may be offered as sacrifice, yet their potency doth vary from weak to strong. After a certain number of offerings, a period of dormancy shall ensue. Pray, let the host employ the sacrificial system with prudence. Ding! It is detected that the mortal vessel inhabited by the host is deceased. Dost thou wish to sacrifice it? I was utterly confounded upon the spot. It dawned upon me that I was not listening to a mere play. I had traversed through time to become Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor who perished before I could even begin to fathom this profound revelation. The system's chime echoed once more. Ding, a reminder to the host. If thou dost not sacrifice the corpse that hath already perished, possessing it for too long shall lead to thine known demise. Proceed. Proceed at once. Ding. Congratulations to the host. The sacrifice is complete. Ding. Under normal circumstances for this sacrifice, there would be a requisite period of cooldown, yet the system may still proceed forthwith. No sooner had the voice faded than Yang Zhen's corpse, lying beneath me, vanished in an instant. I was transformed into a spectral soul, drifting in the void. Just as I was about to curse the system for its treachery, another chime struck. Host, but sacrificing the corpse of the eternal emperor Qin Shokan Yozheng, though, has obtained the system. Reward, the aura of the eternal emperor. A blinding golden radiance instantly filled the entirety of the imperial carriage. A profound warmth enveloped me. Power surged into my limbs and bones. In less than 2 breaths' time, A youthful vessel, brimming with absolute might, was completely reformed in the flesh. I lowered my head and traced mine own arm. Every fiber of my being felt as though it were ablaze with raw power. I raised my gaze to the bronze mirror within the carriage. Reflected therein was Yin Zheng, at the age of 18, his brows and eyes as sharp as a forged blade, his sovereign majesty practically overflowing. A vast sea of memories flooded my mind, and I thus realized this was not the history I knew. This is the continent of Zhuzhou, the Great Qin, the Great Han, the Great Sui, the Great Tang, the Great Song, the Great Qing, the Great Lao, and the Great Ming. The 9 great empires stand side by side. Furthermore, Western Shao, Dali, the Turkic Khaganate, Dongying, and other lesser realms survive within the crevices of their power. The Great Qin hath just swept away the 6 kingdoms, its momentum at its zenith. Yet the neighboring Great Su and Great Han have long been glaring like ravenous tigers, waiting but for the Qin Emperor's demise to feast upon our bountiful flesh. The royal court, moreover, hath descended into utter chaos. The military might of the Wang and Meng clans remain as irreconcilable as fire and water. Fu Su is played for a fool, beguiled by the remnants of the 6 kingdoms, and Hou Hai is manipulated by the treacherous Zhao Gao, turning the royal court into a foul and murky quagmire. The original vessel hath already perished. The very heavens of the Great Qin are on the verge of collapse. Whilst I was yet absorbing these revelations, the chime of the system resounded once more. Ding! Congratulations unto the host for acquiring the Son of Heaven's Qi-observing art. The Son of Heaven's Qi-observing art doth illuminate right from wrong. It judgeth loyalty and treason, and distinguisheth truth from falsehood. When invoked, thy twin pupils shall gleam with golden radiance. Thou mayest discern the loyal from the treacherous, the good from the evil, and perceive clearly all machinations and deceitful ploys. I arched a brow and cast my gaze toward the dragon carriage. Without, Zhao Gao was even now striking a dark bargain with Li Si. From the depths of mine eyes erupted 2 beams of blinding golden light. In the ensuing breath, I reached forth and cast aside the heavy curtains of the dragon carriage. Zhao Gao and Li Si, 地病抗热而好的伙食被秦正国 raised their heads abruptly, only to behold me, dead these past 2 days, standing hale and whole before their very eyes. All color drained from their visages in a fleeting instant. The scorching winds of Shaku swept the yellow sands against the ebon armor. The scales upon the elite vanguard's armor gleamed with a frigid, shattered light. Li Si stared onto the dragon carriage, his hands trembling violently. Quivering, he asked of Zhao Gao at his side, Zhao Gao, wherefore did I sense a sudden burst of golden radiance within? It flashed, but for a moment, his mind was utterly consumed by legends of the elixir of immortality. Could it be? Hath His Majesty truly ascended to immortality? He could even faintly discern the breath of the living from within the dragon carriage. Yet the dread of the Qin Emperor, etched deep into his very bones, stayed him from daring to advance even half a step. In his heart, Zhao Gao was likewise seized by a chilling dread. Bracing himself, he peered into the imperial carriage, only to meet the gaze of Chunin, who sat cross-legged upon the silken cushions. In the fleeting moment, their eyes met. Zhao Gao's legs gave way, and he fell heavily to his knees. Scrambling and crawling into the imperial palanquin, his forehead struck the wooden floorboards with resounding thuds. Your Majesty, this old servant deserves death. This old servant deserves death. I beseech your Majesty for forgiveness. Hearing Zhao Gao's piteous wails, the color drained instantly from Li Si's visage. He knew that their treasonous plotting to forge the final edict had been heard in its entirety by His Majesty. He too collapsed to his knees, his voice trembling beyond measure. Your Majesty. Speak no further. We have heard your converse with utmost clarity. Juan fixed his gaze upon them both, golden light flashing briefly in the depths of his eyes. Was the newly awakened imperial art of Qi divination. Through it, he could clearly behold the crimson aura of loyalty hovering about them both. He knew that so long as he drew breath, these two dared not rebel. Yet, the matter of forging the dying edict could by no means go unpunished. Li Si was so terrified he prostrated himself upon the ground, daring not even to lift his head. He had just borne witness to the golden light within Chu Yun's eyes, and in his heart, he was convinced that His Majesty, having partaken of the elixir of life, had truly ascended to immortality.
9月开是个短字较高，又愧了一个力父。
His voice as cold as glacial ice. Take thine own life. The innate, crushing majesty of an eternal emperor's vessel bore down upon Zhao Gao until he could scarcely breathe. He knew well that the first emperor's word was absolute law. When the sovereign wills his subject's death, the subject has no choice. Defiance would yield naught but the fate of being torn asunder by chariots. Gritting his teeth, he could only beg of His Majesty. Thy servant begs for a swift and merciful end. Granted. Clemery, Scarce had Chu Yun's voice faded.
Jiao Gao raised his hand and smote his own brow. Following a muffled thud, he crumpled to the earth, bleeding from his 7 orifices.
The sight struck Li Si stiff with terror. Was it this very moment? A system prompt chimed within Chu Yu's mind. Ding, detected eligible item for sacrifice. The corpse of Jiao Gao. Doth the host wish to proceed with the sacrifice? A gleam sparked in Chu Yun's eyes. He commanded silently in his heart. Sacrifice. Congratulations unto the host. The sacrifice hath been successful. By sacrificing the corpse of the treacherous official Jiao Gao, thou hast obtained a loyal subject, a devoted iteration of Jiao Gao. Thou hast also acquired the 6 sword slaves. Following this sacrifice, the system shall enter a period of cooldown. Upon the conclusion of the cooldown, it shall undergo an upgrade. Subsequent sacrifices shall bestow even more bountiful rewards. A brilliant white light flashed forth. The very Jiao Gao, who had but just breathed his last, was instantly restored to life. He fell straight to his knees before Chu Yun. Your Majesty, Li Si's eyes widened in sheer disbelief, gazing upon the resurrected Jiao Gao. He cried out at the top of his lungs. His Majesty hath truly ascended as an immortal. Chu Yu summoned the system interface. Upon it, he beheld the attributes of the newly forged Jiao Gao. Loyal eunuch, cultivation realm. Peak of the Grandmaster realm, loyalty, 100%. Verily, a supreme martial artist of the Great Qin. He then extended his senses to the surroundings. Indeed, he detected the auras of 6 grandmasters, concealed deep within the shadows. They were the fiercely loyal 6 sword slaves, each possessing their own masterful arts of assassination, exceedingly fitting to serve as his personal retinue. He was just ponder whether the next sacrifice might summon forth yet. Lang Ji and other such legendary figures of the Qin era. From without came the sudden cry of Jiang Han, commander of the Shadow Guard. Whence come these base scoundrels? How dare you approach His Majesty's imperial carriage?
Equal death.
Nigh 10,000 soldiers of the Black Armor Army drew their blades and encircled the carriage in an instant. Clad in black armor, Jiang Han rode his steed forth to the imperial carriage. He had sensed the aura of the 6 sword slaves, which prompted him to cry out in warning. Yet the assassins concealed within the shadows and mistakenly believed their presence had been exposed. Forthwith, a voice cried out in dismay. Curses, we have been discovered. Slay them. Let the battle be swift. Who could have foreseen that Qin Shi Huang deceased these past 2 days, having but newly sacrificed the treacherous minister Jiao Gao to render him a fiercely loyal servant, would find thousands of assassins suddenly charging forth from all sides. The dark iron shields of the black-armored Imperial Guard reflected the glaring sun. Once yellow sands were churned by sword aura into a blinding blizzard of dust. The blade in Jiang Han's grasp hummed and trembled. Rebellious traitors! Remnants of the fallen nations! Shadow Guards, ride with me to the slaughter. Imperial Guard, protect His Majesty. Understood. Li Si's countenance tightened. He turned and spoke urgently to Chu Yin within the imperial carriage. Take heed, Your Majesty. I shall stand without the carriage and keep watch upon the assassins. Jiao Gao, remain here and protect His Majesty. Scarcely had he stepped from the carriage when a rustling disturbance was heard beneath his feet. In the ensuing moment, scores of silhouettes burst fiercely from beneath the earth. Li Si's pupils abruptly contracted. He gritted his teeth, naming them one by one. The Confucian School, the Mohis School, the School of Medicine, Dramatiru, the Holy Maiden of the School of Medicine, fixed her gaze upon Li Si and spoke with icy resolve. The tyrant is dead. Li Si, why must thou persist in aiding this wickedness? Li Si trembled all over with sheer wrath. Pointing at her, he sternly demanded, the School of Medicine, why have you joined in this treasonous regicide? His Majesty hath treated thee with naught but grace. He even harbored the intent to take thee as his royal consort. Is this how ye repay His Majesty? The Emperor of Qin is a cruel and tyrannical despot. His death is a fate richly deserved. The harsh laws of Great Qin oppress the commoners, stifling their very breath. In the borderlands, villages slaughter one another merely for military merit. Such a tyrant, all men have the righteous duty to strike down. A fate richly deserved, thou sayest? How excellent.
巨运入人民辣的，反四喜夫妇想得的回答是
The dragon-like aura of the eternal emperor. Its oppressive might cause the surrounding assassins to falter for a moment.
His gaze swept over Zhou Nilu, whose face was fraught with utter astonishment.
His tone was brimming with mocking jest.
Zhou Nilu gazed upon the youth before her.
This impossibly young emperor. She instinctively took half a step backward and cried out in dismay. Nay, thou art not the emperor of Qin. When I sought audience with His Majesty half a year prior, he bore no resemblance to thee.
Chu Yun raised a brow
and retorted with a smile. We are not the emperor of Qin.
Then pray tell, Who might we be?
The Grandmaster of the Mohist school, Jin Wusheng, and Elder Mo Yan stepped forth, sword in hand.
He is indeed the Emperor of Qin.
His aura is unmistakable. He hath merely grown younger. The 13th elder of the Confucian school, Meng Lang Lang, sent to wielding his golden thread inkbrush, the golden threads upon its tip, bristling straight as arrows.
He glared at Chu Yin as though he wished to devour him alive.
Thou vile tyrant!
What matters it if thou hast evaded death? This day shall be the day of thy doom.
Chu Yu let out a scoffing sneer.
He cast him a sidelong glance, his tone dripping with disdain.
Brings us out to slay us with a mere 5th-tier Grandmaster cultivation.
Zinan and the elder of the agricultural school set forth to stand shoulder to shoulder behind Meng Lang Lang.
The formidable auras of 3 5th-tier Grandmasters erupted forth.
The surrounding imperial guards instinctively tightened their grip upon their weapons. Reng Ganlong offered a sinister smirk and spake thus.
What then of 3 5th-tier Grandmasters? Tyrant, I must confess,
These imperial guards of thine
are naught but the basest of drags.
only thy shadow guards boast any true merit,
Alas, they are now purned down by the assassins without.
and can proffer thee no salvation. Gazing upon the distant imperial guards who had already knocked their arrows, urged in haste. Cease this prattle! Strike him down, make haste! Tarry any longer, and the archers shall loose their volley. None of us shall escape. With a thunderous bellow, Meng Lang Lang
gripped his golden brush and was the first to charge at Chu Yun.
Li Si gritted his teeth and cast himself before Chu Yun. Possessing but the cultivation of a first-tier grandmaster, he was no match for them in but the blink of an eye. He was pierced through by Mo Yan's blade. Thuan delivered a heavy kick to his chest, his tone dripping with scorn. Just as the grandmasters of the Confucian and agricultural schools were on the verge of reaching Chu Yun, a thread of gossamer silk, gleaming with a frigid light, slashed fiercely through the air, halting the two precisely where they stood.
明来了，生意思吧？
Crying out in alarm. What sorcery is this? Shadow guards? Duan Yunu fixed her gaze upon the peerless beauty who had abruptly materialized
And knit her brows in deep consternation. She is no shadow guard. She is a new guard in the service of the Qin Emperor.
I have previously perused the roster of the Qin Emperor's guards, and never before has this person's name appeared. And Welong fixed his gaze upon Zhuanpuang, who possessed but a 3rd-tier grandmaster cultivation, and roared in fury. Thou art aiding a tyrant in his wickedness. Thou deservest death. The golden threads of the weapon in his hand burst forth with a blinding golden radiance. The golden threads pierced through the spiderweb, striking straight at drawn posages. Suddenly, a towering figure materialized to block the blow.
It was none other than Zhengang of the 6-sword slaves.
The heavy blade in his grasp cleaved forth with immense ferocity, deflecting all the incoming golden threads.
The impact left Menwalang's arm entirely numb.
In a mixture of shock and wrath, he cursed.
Thou art by no means a mere 3rd-tier Grandmaster.
Nani, a grandmaster of the Langjesk, tried to round with his sickle, arriving behind Zhengang. Just as he was poised to deliver a fatal strike, a phantom-like silhouette abruptly manifested behind Nanli. Twin claws thrust straight for his throat. It was none other than Wanling of the 6-sword slaves. Terrified, Nanli rapidly retreated, his back drenched in a cold sweat of terror. Witnessing Wang Ling's phantom-like footwork, Mo Yan, a grandmaster of the Moya school, charged forward, sword in hand. Reng Yang's figure flickered,
And he vanished from the spot.
Ming Yan's cest and meaty apparel, just as he attempted to withdraw, when one of the 6-sword slaves suddenly materialized, severing his path of retreat. The sinister laughter of Luan Shen echoed through the air
As a dagger ruthlessly pierced through Mo Yan's chest.
Clutching his wound, Mo Yan bore the agony and desperately retreated. A frigid, hidden blade shot from the shadows, aimed straight at his vitals. Dongli surged forward, parrying the strike with his sickle.
From the shadows whence the blade came, Mi Hun's icy voice resounded.
The swirling spider silk instantly ensnared Nanli's limbs. Mi Hun's blade pierced straight through his heart.
Dongli eyes bulged, dying with everlasting grievance.
Roaring his final words,
The Long Clan shall avenge me.
barely a score of breaths had passed from beginning to end. Of the 3 grandmasters of the 5th realm, one lay dead, another wounded. The Long Lang's soul nearly fled his body in terror. Witnessing this, Vonna Mojinlo swiftly drew forth several packets of medicinal powder and cast them into the air, summoning a veil of pitch-black mist. Enduring his wounds, Li Si stepped forth to shield his majesty. When the black mist dispersed, Li Si had already forced Duan Yinglo to her knees before Zhu. Your Majesty, the rebel maiden hath been captured. Alas, Ming Lang Lang of the Confucian school hath fled. Thou hast toiled hard. Step down and tend to thy wounds.
That black mist just now was venomous, seeing Mo Yunlu turn her head, refusing to speak.
Chu Yun sneered coldly. Thy family doth disappoint us greatly.
Since we were capable of burning the books and burying the scholars, what makes thee think a burning of books and burying of physicians is something we dare not do once more?
Glut Yumulo's delicate frame trembled.
Yet she ground her teeth, refusing to bow her head. She was waiting for their reinforcements to arrive. She was not made to wait long. From the distant yellow sands, a unit of cavalry suddenly burst forth. The burly warrior at their fore, wielding a city-breaking halberd, let loose a bellow like a great bell that echoed across the dunes.
Brethren,
Follow me, the hegemon king of Western Chu, and slay the
payment.
But black, armored, Imperial Guard shields glinted blindingly beneath the sun. 20,000 horsemen kicked up a storm of yellow sand, blotting out the heavens and the earth. The thunder of hooves shook the golden leaf from the Imperial palanquin, sending it fluttering down. I fixed my gaze upon that cavalry. The murderous intent in my eyes nearly materialized in a physical form. I spoke with a glacial tone, right beneath our imperial gaze, within the borders of Great Qin. To think 20,000 fully armored cavalrymen lay hidden. Even if the remnants of the Six Kingdoms are backed by the 100 schools of thought, they could ne'er procure such a vast array of war horses and armor. It must be the clandestine backing of foreign realms. They court death. Beside me, Zhao Gao bowed deeply and replied, Your Majesty is infinitely wise. The bordering Saikin, the Great Han, and the Great Sui are all suspect. Most notably, the Great Sui. Following 3 failed campaigns against Goguryeo, internal strife runs rampant across their lands. They seek to support these rebels against Qin, merely to divert their people's gaze, whosoever it may be. Once we have purged the remnants within our borders, we shall exact our vengeance upon them all, one by one. Those whose kingdoms warrant annihilation, no, shall be spared. The thunderous drum of hooves drew ever closer. Sang Yu, astride his ebony steed and grasping his overload spear, charged forth like an untethered, ferocious tiger, crashing violently into the ranks of the Imperial Guards. With a sweeping arc of his overlord spear, guardsmen within 10 paces were hurled mercilessly into the air. To possess such terrifying might without even calling upon his inner ki. Instantly, her eyes alit with hope, her countenance flushed a vibrant crimson as she gazed upon Sang Yu with absolute reverence. Trembling with sheer exhilaration, she cried, The Overlord hath arrived! We are saved! I cast a sidelong glance at her, sneering in my heart. This foolish woman truly perceives Sang Yu to be some savior of the realm. Previously,
Pursue Sang Yu for 3 autumns like a groveling hound,
exalting his name until it was known throughout the Great Qin, claiming that he is a hero whom not even the grandest armies could summon. In my eyes, he is not but a simple-minded brute. Zhao Ge approached my side. With a solemn countenance, he spoke. Your Majesty, Shan Yu has reached the pinnacle of a grandmaster and possesses innate divine strength. Heretofore, in the Great Han, he breached a formation of 50,000 heavy armored soldiers single-handedly, slaughtering 2,000 men before retreating entirely unscathed. The Imperial Guards presently cannot withstand his charge. I beseech you to return to the Dragon Palanquin and seek temporary refuge.
听人赵高说不，周穆言落，故一门木耳个见。
Raising her chin, she glared at me and pronounced, Your time of death is at hand, tyrant. With 20,000 cavalry, your 10 of thousands of Imperial Guards shall not hold him back. My time of death? I had originally thought that, as a holy maiden of your lineage, your vision would be loftier than that of the common rabble. Yet it seems thou art nothing more than ordinary, endowed in form, but bereft of wit, long of hair, yet short of sight.
Wan Yu's visage flashed crimson with fury.
She struggled and cried out,
What mean you by ordinary?
In a moment, the Overlord shall pierce your throat with his spear. We shall see how you maintain this arrogance then. I let out a sneer, pinching her cheek to deliberately disgust her. I said, With such meager charms as yours, dost thou truly believe thyself worthy of inciting my wicked thoughts before my death? Cease thy foolish flattery of thyself. As expected, the moment these words were spoken,
Within Transmigrating's eyes,
there flashed a momentary glint of indignation and profound dismay. That which a woman values most is her own countenance. To shatter her confidence inflicts far greater agony than striking her dead. The anguished wails from without grew ever fainter. Shan Yu's eyes had grown crimson with the frenzy of slaughter. The battle arrays formed by the advancing army tottered on the brink of collapse beneath his ferocious charge. The Grand Master martial artist at his side accompanied him along this bloody path. In but a moment, they would breach the very presence of the dragon carriage. I raised my head abruptly, bellowing with sovereign majesty into the void.
6 swords!
Hark. Casting my gaze upon the tumultuous battlefield, I commanded in a heavy tone to intercept and slay Sang Yu and his retinue.
Team Heat, do not meet Sang Yu with brute force.
First, slay the grandmasters at his side.
And thus exhaust his formidable might.
The 6 sword slaves answered in unison.
By your command.
I then raised my voice to decree unto the generals of the vanguard without, intercept and slay Sang Yu and his retinue.
Heed, do not meet Sang Yu with brute force.
First, slay the grandmasters at his side, and thus exhaust his formidable might.
Hearken unto my decree, warriors of the vanguard.
Lend your utmost strength to the 6 sword slaves. Advance.
Jumbo let out a piercing cry.
Heavenly net of earthly snares. Translucent silken threads unfurled in but an instant, coiling directly about the 2 enemy grandmasters behind Sang Yu.
Mihrim followed closely in her wake.
2 concealed sleeve swords unerringly pierced their marks. The sisterly duo coordinated their strikes with flawless perfection.
The 2 grandmasters were bereft of even a moment to react, perishing straight away where they stood. Witnessing such a sight, Jiang Yu's eyes grew red with sheer fury. Despicable cur. Accursed assassins. Yet Merilyn deigned not to clash with him by brute force. With a mere flicker of her silhouette, she vanished into the vanguard's formations. The vanguard swiftly assembled their battle arrays to bar Xiang Yu's path. Long spears and short blades struck towards his form in unison. Though Xiang Yu swept away a dozen men with but a single swing of his spear, his vigor had visibly diminished. Compared to moments prior, a sinister, chilling laughter began to echo through the air. The spectral silhouettes of Wang Yang and Duan Shui materialized beside Xiang Yu, flickering in and out of the shadows. Yet another grandmaster beside Jiang Yu was slain. Xiang Yu roared to the heavens in fury. Ugh. The XG. Of the 4 grandmasters he brought forth, 3 had perished in but a dozen breaths. The cavalry at his back were beaten into a steady retreat by the slaughter of Great Qin's imperial guards. The blades of that motley rabble could not even dent the dark armor of the imperial guards, save for a few casualties suffered during their initial charge. It had now become an entirely one-sided massacre. Within the imperial palanquin, Duan Mulo watched with eyes wide in horror. Glaring at me, she cried out in anger, "Why are you subordinate so cruel? They are all righteous warriors. How could you treat them so?" I looked at her as though she were a fool, and retorted with a scoff, "Cruel? Do you not see how many imperial guards Xiang Yu sweeps away with a single strike? Do you not see how many men's bones he shatters with a single punch? Is it not cruel when he slaughters our soldiers? If those eyes of yours are of no use, they would be better gouged out and fed to the hounds." No sooner had our words fallen than another chorus of agonizing screams erupted outside. Xiang Yu unleashed a mighty punch, and over a dozen imperial guards were instantly pulverized into paste. Yet Duan Muyinglu's eyes lit up. Gazing at Xiang Yu with a face full of infatuation, she proudly raised her chin and said unto me, "Truly worthy of the title, Haemonon King of Western Chu. This single punch, even the likes of Wan Jan and Man Jan could hardly match it. Do you see? This is the majestic might of the Hegemon King." The fury within my heart instantly flared. How dare this woman look down upon the gods of war of Great Qin? I spoke with icy resolve. "Hold your tongue. Dare to insult the generals of Great Qin once more, and I shall ruin this visage of yours." She grew submissive, as expected, sitting to the side, not daring to utter a word, not even daring to draw a heavy breath. Upon the battlefield outside, the fray raged fiercely. A heavy blade warrior surged forth with ferocity, cleaving the final grandmaster by Xiang Yu's side, cleanly in twain. The morale of our vanguard surged in an instant as they swarmed Xiang Yu with no regard for their lives. A glint of retreat had already appeared in his eyes. I, the Hegemon King of Western Chu, command you to fall back. Yet the vanguard of Great Qin were death-sworn soldiers, forged in discipline. Save for my command, no other's words held sway. They continued to charge forward, forsaking their lives. Xiang Yu grew ever more exasperated by the relentless besiegement, and the wounds upon his flesh multiplied. On the other flank, Zheng Han was entangled by the Yan sovereign. In his fury, he sternly roared, "Lord of Yan, have you not considered that when His Majesty's wrath is roused after this day, he shall unleash his full might to slaughter the remnants of Yan? Then the rivers of blood shall never cease. Begone with you at once." A flicker of dread crossed the Yan sovereign's visage, yet he gritted his teeth and stood resolute. "If we but slay the Qin Emperor this day, Great Qin shall fall into ruinous chaos. We have no path of retreat."
The 20,000 cavalry on the periphery have already lost more than half their number.
The remainder have begun to flee in disarray.
Within the imperial carriage, Dun Muqing Lua watched in deep anxiety.
How could it come to this?
Hey, Bangtan, you must not yield.
Head on king.
I raised an eyebrow, and leaning close to her side, I asked with keen amusement,
What is it? Thou art well acquainted with Xiangju.
神猛如的会，连自长下的。
She dared not meet my gaze. In an instant, the truth was laid bare to my mind. It doth appear the bond betwixt them is profound indeed. I was but fretting over how to ensnare Zhang Yu. Yet here is bait delivered unto my very hands. It would be a folly not to cast it.
I forcefully pinned her against the wall of the dragon carriage.
Her countenance grew pale with fright. Struggling, she cried out, Now, what dost thou intend? Cry out louder. Let us see if Xiang Yu shall, for thy sake, charge forth in a fit of rage.
Duan Yulu perceived my design in a heartbeat, her face flushing crimson with fury.
Scoundrel, thou art shameless. 'Tis the conduct of a knave.
My laughter grew merrier. Are we shameless?
Nay, this is but grand strategy.
Dost thou not deem Sanyur to be an unparalleled hero? We are most eager to witness if he could cast away his very life for thee, his betrothed,
And charge into the fray. I held her fast by the shoulders, forcing her visage toward the window, facing. Xiang Yu, unhand me! I say, unhand me! So speaking, she brought up her knee to strike at my loins.
I aided the blow with the utmost ease and seized her firmly by the ankle.
Such a spirited temper.
And thy skin is exceedingly smooth.
She was driven near unto madness, with ire, striking at me without cease.
Yet I parried every blow with effortless grace and took no small measure of liberties in return, provoking her to cry out in utmost fury. The voice carried swiftly beyond the carriage walls.
Zhang Yu, amidst the fierce siege, caught the sound of her cries.
And in an instant, his eyes burned with a blood-red rage. Lifting his gaze toward the imperial carriage, he roared out,
Yalu, Emperor of Qin, our lecherous tyrant, unhand Yulu. The aura radiating from his form surged in an instant, like unto a maddened beast. Heeding not the grievous wounds upon his flesh, he charged heedless of death toward the imperial carriage, carving through the royal guard.
The commanders cried out in panic. Halt him, let him not draw near the imperial carriage.
Alas, the wrathful Xiang Yu could not be stayed.
The overlord's spear in his grasp swept forth, fattering the flesh and blood of the royal guard. He cleaved a path straight toward the imperial carriage. I smiled in profound satisfaction, reaching forth once more to pinch the cheek of Doan Muinglo, desiring that she cry out all the louder.
Yet, she suddenly realized my intent
and cried out toward the window. My overlord, heed me not. They don't have stockmaters. Fight thy way out of this camp.
Ere her words could be finished, I clamped my hand firmly over her mouth.
She could utter naught but muffled whimpers.
Hearing her voice, Zhang Yu grew all the more frantic.
He bellowed,
Yinlu, thy king cometh to thy rescue.
His charge quickened with renewed fury. I purposely cast open the carriage window, that he might behold most clearly the sight of me, pinning Duan Muinglo down.
Zhang Yu's eyes widened in such wrath, they seemed ready to weep blood. He roared to the heavens. Thou lecherous tyrant, perish, perish before thy king. Turning to Zhao without, I lowered my voice and spake. Zhao, strike now.
Duan Muinglo's pupils shrank in sudden terror.
She sought to cry out, warning Xiang Yu to beware. Yet I bowed my head and sealed her lips with mine. Her eyes grew wide as she struggled with all her might.
Yet she could by no means break free.
Yu's reason was utterly consumed by the flames of wrath. He heeded not even the stealthy strikes of the 6 sword thralls at his side.
His heart set solely upon charging forth to slay me and rescue Duan Mu.
The wounds upon Yingle's flesh grew ever more numerous, and her strength was nigh unto exhaustion.
银将
Unhand Yinglu.
Upon the outer perimeter of the battlefield,
江与山冈口，相国
beholding the slaughter of nigh 20,000 cavalrymen,
Was beset by frantic haste. Why hath Xiang Yu not yet emerged? Was it not said that the Emperor of Qin hath perished?
he ventured within, accompanied by the 4 grandmasters.
Why is there not but a whisper of movement? At this very moment,
Mangyan and Manga, bearing grievous wounds, came fleeing in absolute panic.
they cried out in unison to Sambo. It is he! The Qin Emperor hath not perished.
The might of the guards at his side doth surpass all our reckonings.
We've all erred in our calculations. If we flee not now, it shall be too late.
相伯宋卡之族，把力领。
Nigh swooning where he stood, he gazed upon the wretched state of Mo Yan and Mam Lanalak, and knew well they had forsaken and betrayed Xiang Yu. Boiling with rage, he cursed aloud.
Damnation take you! The 100 schools of thought
are indeed devoid of trust. He violently drew forth the longsword from his waist, and facing the remnants of the Chu soldiers behind him, he roared with a resounding voice. Hearken unto my command, men-at-arms, at all costs. Charge inward with me,
and rescue the Heaven King.
Scarce had his words fallen. Then he was the first to brandish his blade, plunging straight into the heart of the Qin formation. The lingering remnants of his army surged forth in his wake.
The battlefield, which had nigh grown still,
Was once more swept into a tempest of blood and slaughter. There his words had wholly fallen. A cry from Jiang Yu rang out from the heart of the battlefield, an agonizing roar. As the throng lifted their eyes, they bore witness to the fell palm strike of Zhao Go, landing with grievous force upon the center of Sang Yu's back.
I stood by the casement of the imperial carriage,
Watching as Young Bo, his eyes bloodshot, sought to charge into the enemy encampment, bellowing, all the while, "Hearken to my command, all ye warriors, whatever the cost may be. Charge forth, with me, and deliver the Hegemon King." Beside him, Menglangon's visage turned a livid green with fury, as he pointed an accusing finger, berating Sanghua. "Hast thou gone mad? 'Tis paramount that we conserve our strength. Do not be a fool."
Sanbo drew his blade straightway, pointing it at him and roaring, "Begone!"
I, Sanbo, have no need for the ruinous curse of that ilk to dictate my path. Was at this very moment, the Emperor of Yan, locked in a bitter duel with Zhang Han, bellowed out, "Fall back!" The true might guarding the Qin Emperor remained shrouded.
Sound the retreat at once.
相公否等了我们。
Roar on. Emperor of Yan, the king
Is yet within. The Emperor of Yan, distracted by his reply,
was nigh skewered by the spear of Zhang Han.
frantic and exasperated, he cried,
Sao Yu hath lost his very mind.
"He is beyond salvation.
Fall back. The 10,000 cavalrymen of the 6 kingdoms below, having long been utterly routed by the imperial guards of Great Qin,
First command, and turned tail to flee. Shanbo,
consumed by wrath, hewed down 2 of the retreating soldiers. Beholding this, the Emperor of Yan was driven to unparalleled fury. "Seize him!" Jiang Han, thrusting his spear in relentless assault, mocked with a grim smile.
dost thou think to flee, Emperor of Yan?
Hast thou asked leave of this commander?"
Alas, I had no desire to watch these curs tear at one another's throats.
I turned my gaze unto Sang Yu, whom Zhao Gao had sent flying with a single palm strike.
Just as he sought to rise, his thigh was struck by a dart coated in Zhao Gou's sleeping draft. We swayed but twice, then fell stiffly to the earth.
Bun beside him, Duanya Jinlu was frightened out of her very soul.
She cried out with a torn heart,
Let him go!
"Do not die!" Alas, Chang Yu could no longer hear her cries. I smiled, patting the armrest of the dragon throne, and spake unto Zhao Gao at my side. "The Hegemon King of Western Chu amounts to but this. Thou hast done well to serve your majesty. Is this old servant's greatest honor? 10,000 years to Great Qin, 10,000 years to your majesty."
Duan Yulo glared fiercely upon me.
Her eyes so crimson, they seemed to weep blood. "Despicable and shameless wretch!
thou hast bested the Hegemon King through such underhanded trickery.
What manner of hero art thou?" Greatly amused, I leaned close unto her ear. "In war there is no aversion to deceit. Holy maiden, hast thou never heard these words? Furthermore, in dealing with treacherous rebels, what need is there to speak of righteousness?"
3 days hence, I led the grand army back unto Stiang,
And at once issued an imperial decree. The scholars, the mohists, the tillers, and the healers have conspired with the remnants of the 6 states to raise arms against the throne. Any soldier or citizen of Great Qin who presents the head of a rebel shall be rewarded with 10 taels of silver. The decree was proclaimed far and wide. I deliberately commanded that the tidings of the capture of thousands of healer disciples and their impending execution on the morrow be passed unto Duan Muhinlu within the heavenly prison.
Their long word was brought back. The holy maiden hath swooned.
As per your majesty's command, the tidings have been spread to the hidden sects of the realm.
Bring her unto the Epping Palace. It shall be done. When she awakened,
I was seated beside her bed, partaking of tea. She violently snapped her eyes open. Upon beholding me, she instantly bristled with fury, rolling in anger. "Tyrant, thou shalt suffer a wretched demise. Thou hadst best tend to thine own affairs first. We heard thou didst swoon within the heavenly dungeon. Thus, out of benevolence, we had thee brought to the Epping Palace. Wherefore dost thou not offer us due gratitude, and instead show us such ferocity?" Upon hearing the name of the Epping Palace, her visage turned instantly as white as parchment. "Thou hast dared imprison me within the Epping Palace. Tyrant, Be not so insolent in thy triumph. The school of medicine is no gathering of pedants like those Confucians.
The connections of our school span the entirety of the 9 provinces.
They shall come to my deliverance. When that time comes, the mighty warriors of the 9 provinces
shall absolutely trample thy great Qin into dust.
Hearing this, I laughed aloud.
Mayhap thou art not yet fully awake. So long as we draw breath for but a single day,
Great Qin shall never fall into chaos. The TBU, just
speak not of the connections of thy medical school.
Even if the Great Su and the Great Han were to join forces, they could not advance a single pace past the Hanhua Pass.
Now, shalt not be laughing for long.
Laugh if she must. I was too weary to exchange idle banter with her,
and thought it best to declare my purpose directly.
Let us dispense with other matters.
We have come to see thee because we value thy skills.
We desire thee to serve us. Thou needst not undertake heavy burdens.
Merely instruct a few eunuchs in the healing arts for us.
Or palace maid shall suffice. In exchange, we shall spare thy life. What sayest thou? A mocking sneer swiftly appeared upon her visage.
Tyrant, dost thou truly believe I fear death?
Slay me or flay me. Do as thou wilt. If thy intent is to defile me,
thou mayest come at me this very instant.
I raised a brow. Thou art quite resigned to thy fate.
Yet, though thou dost not cherish thy own life,
surely thou wouldst not bear to watch the disciples of the Yi clan beheaded. She lifted her head abruptly, fixing her gaze upon me, and cursed through gritted teeth.
Thou despicable knave!
Thank me for being woo-woo-move. Those in death. And now thou disuse the disciples of the Yi clan to threaten me.
Shameless wretch! Thou art unworthy to be sovereign of this realm.
My countenance grew cold.
Whether we are unworthy to rule this realm
shall naturally be judged by the people of the world and decreed by the generations to come.
Thou alone canst not speak for all under heaven.
I clapped mine hands. These twain are renowned physicians of the Ye clan within the city of Shanyang.
In times past, we did personally bestow upon them a plaque honoring their salvation of the dying and healing of the wounded.
We wonder if thou, the holy maiden of the Yi clan, art acquainted with them. Her frame did tremble.
Biting her lip, she feigned deafness.
I gave a cold laugh and commanded,
commence the torment. The eunuchs advanced, bearing instruments of torture.
Anon, piteous shrieks did rend the air.
Tyrant! A wretched death shall befall thee. With reddened eyes, she cried out fiercely. I waved my hand, signaling the eunuchs to cease, and spake with a smile. Didst thou hear?
The holy maiden of the Yi clan doth bid you halt.
Then, let us now invite the holy maiden of the Yi clan to tend to the wounds of these 2 disciples.
An attendant brought forth a chest of remedies. She gritted her teeth and approached to heal the twain.
Her movements were so swift, mine eyes could scarce follow.
In but a fleeting moment, the 2 disciples, who but moments ago writhed upon the ground in agony,
did rise to their feet.
I clicked mine hands.
And 4 imperial physicians, concealed behind the screen, did step forth. Each with head bowed low, they did speak in shame. To answer your majesty, our skills be meager, and our learning shallow.
We are utterly unable to discern the cause, your majesty. Thy servant too can perceive not. I waved mine hand, bidding them all to depart.
Turning mine gaze upon Guanmuinlu, whose countenance was most grim.
Step by step, I did approach her. She retreated in wary vigilance.
And looking upon me, she did ask, "What dost thou intend?"
Gazing upon her visage, fraught with wrath and terror, I spake with a smile. We have heard that to conquer a woman, one must first conquer her physical vessel. We are minded to put this unto the test. Half a watch hence, I was yet striving with Duanmiyinlu, who was as unyielding as a stone. That obdurate maiden would liefer bite her tongue than submit.
Yet I was in no haste.
Leaving but a single word, we shall see how long thy defiance shall endure. I did depart the palace, accompanied by Zhao Gao and the 6 swords of thralldom. In any case, she can ne'er escape the Apeng Palace,
and sooner or later shall be mine. As soon as I did arrive at the encampment of the Imperial Guard, I lifted mine voice and proclaimed, "Lead us to look upon
the 2,000 Imperial Guardsmen who have fallen.
They did perish in defense of our person,
and we shall bid them farewell."
The surrounding guardsmen froze upon the instant.
An aged soldier with hoary hair stepped forth, his voice trembling.
With reddened eyes, he asked, "Your Majesty, dost thou
truly wish to bid farewell to our 2,000 brethren?
For what other purpose would we come hither?"
They fell in battle to shield our royal person.
They are truly worthy of our homage.
Upon these words, the old soldier fell onto his knees.
The surrounding imperial guards, too, did kneel in perfect unison, and the eyes of many were brimming with tears. Your Majesty, to lay down our lives for thee is our truest honor. I invoked the Son of Heaven's aura divination. A flash of golden light swept across my twin pupils, whereupon I beheld a crimson aura of absolute loyalty emanating from every imperial guard, mingled with an aura of unfeigned adoration. Verily, I have won their hearts tenfold. Arise, all of you. Ere long, the funeral pyres were assembled, and the roaring flames painted half the heavens crimson. In the quiet of my heart, I chanted, "System, proceed. Let us see if these 2,000 loyal and valiant souls might be brought back from the dead. Even should it fail, granting some pragmatic boon would suffice. Thing! Host allot for 2,000 Imperial Guards as sacrifice. Congratulations to the host on acquiring 1 blueprint of the 8 trigrams array, 1 formula for the Dragon Blood Elixir Bath, and 1 tome of clandestine skills and training. All offerings yielded unto the system bestow randomized boons. May the host be thus informed. A pang of sorrow struck me that my men could not be restored to life. Yet upon beholding the boons, mine eyes did gleam with fervor. Once the 8 trigrams array is unfurled, 10,000 of my guards shall withstand 100,000 Great Qin elites, and if measured against common cavalry, they might repel 200,000. The dragon blood bath shall fortify their mortal flesh from its very roots. The tome of clandestine training is filled with arts of stealth and assassination, and methods of passing intelligence. 'Tis most fitting for the shadow guards. I summoned forth the Imperial Guard Commander, Li Xin. Forthwith, he stepped forth and clasped his hands in reverence. Henceforth, the Imperial Guards shall drill according to this very blueprint. Should the formation be mastered, even a host of 1,000,000 elites shall find themselves powerless against our 200,000 Great Qin warriors. It shall be done. As for Li Xin, though he was hesitant at first, he bowed his head to cast but a fleeting glance upon the blueprint. In a trice, his eyes went wide with sheer awe, and the hands that cradled the parchment trembled without cease. Your Majesty, this 8 trigrams martial formation is vastly superior to the old formations of our Imperial Guard. With the 8 digrams formation in place, the defenses of our Great Qin's Imperial Guard shall be invincible. Speak not of 1,000,000 elite soldiers. Even if the armies of Great Sui and Great Han were to strike as one, we could still hold fast the city of Xianyang. I smiled and gave his shoulder a reassuring pat. Then see that thou study this formation diligently. I trust it shall be put to use before long. Scarcely had the words left my lips when Zhang Han, commander of the Shadow Guard, materialized before me. Dropping to one knee, he reported in a solemn tone, "I beseech your Majesty, the Grandmaster realm experts beyond the walls of Steinyang have been thoroughly scouted. There are 5 at the pinnacle of the Grandmaster realm. 2 hail from the Great Han Empire, 2 from the Great Sui Empire,
And 1 from the Yaknu. 10 are between the 7th and 9th tiers of the Grandmaster realm.
20 are between the 4th and 6th tiers, and 30 are between the 1st and 3rd tiers."
According to the investigations of the Shadow Guard,
It is highly probable that more Grandmaster realm thinking cultivators are yet to arrive. I beseech your Majesty to decree our course of action. Li Xin's countenance darkened in an instant as he gripped the formation blueprint tightly in his hand. Your Majesty, pre-order the Imperial Guard to sally forth. Even should we suffer grievous losses, we must apprehend every last one of these vermin. To dare run rampant upon the soil of our Great Qin, they must surely grow weary of their lives. Nay, the Imperial Guard must not act hastily, so long as they lay not siege to the city. Deploying the Guard shall serve but little purpose. The lightness arts of Grandmaster realm experts are far beyond the pursuit of ordinary guardsmen. Let our 200,000 Imperial Guards defend Shenyang unto death. To hold our blades is the greatest deterrence of all. None would dare be the first to charge our blades and court death. Then, your Majesty, with the 2 marshals present, we need not fear, no matter how many Grandmasters arrive. That too is out of the question. The Great Sui and Great Han have massed 1,000,000 troops at our borders. The borders shall be breached at once. The vast armies of our foes shall drive straight into our lands. We would be beset on all sides, a far dearer peril. This humble general was short-sighted. I beseech your Majesty's pardon. Li Si and Zhang Han both turned pale with dread. I waved my hand. Keep a vigilant watch upon every movement of those Grandmasters beyond the walls.
We shall descend to the heavenly prison to look upon this so-called hegemon king of Western Chu.
A piercing chill filled the heavenly prison. The cell holding Xian
Yu was forged entirely of thousand-year cold iron,
gleaming with a cold, spectral light.
He was shackled to the wall with chains of black iron. His hair was wild and unkempt.
Upon seeing me, his eyes turned crimson as though weeping blood. He roared and hurled himself against the cell door.
Yanzheng!
What hast thou done with England? Speak, and tell this king at once.
Yu is faring quite well. Very supple indeed.
She now resides within the Apeng Palace.
Far more comfortable than thou art in this dungeon.
Sang Yu trembled with such fury that his veins bulged.
The aura of a peak grandmaster erupted from him. The black iron chains clashed violently as he strained against them.
The entire heavenly prison quaked from his sheer might.
I shall have thy life. I shall have thy life.
Hearing the great commotion, the jailers of the heavenly prison
Came rushing forth with blades drawn.
upon seeing me, they swiftly fell to their knees.
It is not. Withdraw.
Seeing Zhao Gao present, the jailers hastily took their leave.
I gazed upon the near-maddened Sang Yu and spake with deliberate slowness. Sang Yu, thinkest us not for our ruthlessness towards thee. Hadst thou not risen in rebellion,
And instead brought thy might to serve the Great Qin.
we might well have bestowed upon thee the mantle of great general.
To grant thee kingship or lordship was not an impossibility.
Thou didst stubbornly insist upon treason.
And didst even scheme to slay us.
Behold the price of thy folly.
Scarce had the words left my lips
When I beheld a flash of sheer malice in his eyes, he lunged forth, thrusting his arm through the gap in the iron bars,
unleashing a fierce palm strike toward me.
bellowing in fury.
Perish. A tremendous, inexorable force instantly enveloped me.
Dragging me toward the vicious spikes of the cold iron gate, and darted forth to shield me.
Betwixt his fingertips,
He held an embroidery needle so fine it was all but invisible. With a flick of his wrist, he sent it flying forth.
To end His Majesty is death.
With a faint, piercing chime,
The needle pierced clean through Zhang Yu's palm
and buried itself deep within his chest.
veins throbbed fiercely upon Sang Yu's skin in agony.
He bellowed,
Zhao Gao,
"Thou venomous eunuch!" Zhao Gao prepared to strike once more,
but I waved my hand. Enough.
Hold thy hands.
Zhao Gao straightway withdrew his murderous intent and retreated to my shadow. The chains of dark iron clattered and rang out.
He roared, "Curses! Release me!"
Think, thou base tyrant, darest thou fight this king in single combat? I leaned against the wall of cold, dark iron.
Finding his furious stomping rather amusing.
Enough. Roar to the heavens if thou must. 'Tis of no use.
We shall not set thee free.
Yet, we do esteem thee as a hero,
And desire to converse with thee.
Yang Yu sparred fiercely, his spittle striking the very doors of his cell. A shameless tyrant is unworthy of discourse with this king.
Hadst thou not used foul treachery to ensnare me?
Thinkest thou that thou couldst have captured me?
I cared not to bandy words with him.
I clapped my hands. 2 eunuchs entered, bearing a flagon of wine and goblets. I pointed to the brimming goblet and spoke unto him.
Sang Yu, we honor thee as a stalwart man.
And bestow upon thee a cup of fine wine.
Shan Yu glared at the goblet and threw back his head in laughter.
By the heavens, the very dust falls from the dungeon ceiling. Emperor of Qin, dost thou truly take me for a fool? This wine is poisoned, thin as though I would drink a poisoned draught.
Sang Yu, what manner of man dost thou take us for?
I raised a brow.
Took up one of the goblets and drained it in a single draught. We truly honor thee as a man of valor.
Thus, we empty this cup first.
Sang Yu was struck dumb.
He stared at me for a long while, likely unexpecting that I would truly dare drink of it. He looked again at the 2 goblets, poured from the very same flagon,
deemed it impossible for me, beneath his very gaze,
to play a trick. He stiffened his neck and bellowed, "Bring the wine!"
Dost thou think this king fears thee?
The eunuch offered the goblet through the bars. He tilted his head and drained it dry.
Smacked his lips and roared.
More!
After downing 3 or 4 consecutive goblets, he wiped the liquor from the corners of his mouth and laughed uproariously. Excellent wine. If thou wert not the Emperor of Qin, by this cup of wine alone, I would surely name thee friend. Alas, thou art the Emperor of Qin, and thou hast defiled my betrothed. Between us, there shall be no rest until death takes one of us. No sooner had his words fallen, and he suddenly reached forth and seized the 2 cup-bearing eunuchs with 2 sharp, sickening cracks. The 2 eunuchs perished without uttering a single groan. He cast their corpses upon the ground, threw his head back, and laughed maniacally. Glorious!
To drink and to slaughter is true glory.
Emperor of Qin,
Art thou so terrified that thou hast soiled thy robes?
mark my words.
The day shall inevitably come when I shall take thy neck,
Much like these wretched eunuchs.
and snap it in twain. My countenance bore no expression, yet within I grew exceedingly cold. This brute is a butcher indeed.
To let him live is to court disaster. Thou wert to die anyway, I said.
What have we to fear?
Xiang Yu laughed all the more arrogantly.
Just as he prepared to speak, his visage suddenly contorted,
And he spewed forth a mouthful of black blood.
Clutching his breast and glaring at me, he gasped, "The wine is poison!"
Thou didst consume the antidote beforehand.
A venom potent enough to fell a Grand Master at his zenith. Even with an antidote, we would not dare risk tasting it. The poison lay upon thy goblet.
Thou art too foolish.
Xiang Yu fool.
Then abruptly cast his head back in mad laughter. This king is indeed too foolish.
In less than 10 breaths,
He bled from his 7 orifices and collapsed lifeless upon the earth.
and breath left him entirely. At that very moment, a deafening crash resounded from the entrance of the heavenly prison. A band of men clad in black stormed within, shouting,
Where is the Overlord?
Speak swiftly.
"Zhou Gao darted forth to shield me,"
Whispering low.
Your Majesty, the intruders without are 2 experts of the first tier of the Grandmaster realm, and a retinue of guards of the Xenian realm. Judging by their bearing,
They must be guest retainers of young Master Fuzi.
I furrowed my brow. Fusu, this unfilial son of mine insists upon vexing me.
I waved my hand dismissively.
Be at peace.
Let us see to what depths this farce shall descend.
In my heart, I silently invoked system. Sacrifice Xiang Yu. The host hath sacrificed the overlord, Xiang Yu.
Congratulations to the host for acquiring the undying god of war, Zhang Yu.
And 10 Overlord pills. A beam of golden light flashed upon the earth.
The mortal remains of Xiang Yu vanished in an instant.
A new San Yu, clad in armor of deepest obsidian, dropped to one knee
And bowed before me.
I pay my respects to the master. I summoned his panel of attributes.
A pale azure luminescence flared before my eyes.
Figure, Xiang Yu. Realm, citizen of the Grandmaster realm.
Loyalty, 100. Absolute allegiance. Aptitude, 98. Command, 15. Intellect, 65. I nearly laughed aloud. An aptitude of 98 is nigh unto perfection. Yet a command of 15. This brute is fit only to be a shield bearer.
Were we granted command of an army, he would likely march a host of 100,000 straight into the abyss.
I then beheld the edict of the Overlord pill.
Upon consumption, one shall possess for a quarter of an hour
The might of the Overlord at the zenith of the Grand Master realm. Without any lingering afflictions, I nodded in grave satisfaction. This bounty is most agreeable.
to akin to bearing 10 expendable,
Peerless, attasins upon one's person. As the host is but an ordinary eunuch,
Congratulations to the host upon claiming a copy of the Ward Evil Sword Manual. I leafed through the sword manual.
and mine alice with realization.
Tis a yin attribute sword art, perfectly suited for a eunuch's cultivation. Its sword aura can freeze an adversary's internal energy,
Render them ever more sluggish in battle.
to the most fitting discipline for Zhao Gao. Hereafter, we may forge a covert espionage bureau, akin to the Eastern Depot.
I tossed the sword manual to Zhao Gao. Take this Ward Evil Sword Manual and study it well. In due time, select a number of loyal eunuchs within the palace to cultivate its arts. It shall be done. At that very moment, the intruders had already fought their way before us.
Upon beholding me standing there, clad in the dragon robe, the legs of the 2 leading grandmasters gave way instantly, and they collapsed upon the ground.
With trembling voices, they cried out.
Your Majesty, I swept a cold, indifferent gaze over them.
Was it Fusu who commanded you to breach this prison?
Your Majesty, 'twas indeed by young Master Fusi's decree that we led these men to storm the prison.
Yet, Your Majesty, your humble servants all counseled young Master Fusi against it.
But the young master turned a deaf ear.
Indeed, Your Majesty, we reckon only your royal presence can dissuade young Master Fusi.
Before I could utter a single word,
A vicious glint suddenly flashed in their eyes.
And they lunged ferociously toward Zhao Gao.
They bellowed to the men behind them. Quickly, breach the cell doors.
rescue the Overlord.
Slay Zhou Gao, and the victory is ours. Zhou Gao let our children snare.
And with a raise of his hands, blasted 2 palm strikes into their chests.
Courting death.
The 2 were sent flying, spewing blood from the impact. One of them glared at Zhao Gao, gasping,
Zhao Gao, you are actually at the pinnacle of the Grandmaster realm.
The lowly lackeys had already hastily unsealed the gates to San Yu's cell,
Crying out to the 2 who lay upon the ground,
My lords, the cell door is breached.
The two grandmasters rejoiced.
Shutting toward the open cell.
Overlord,
Save us. Make haste.
Overlord, let us carve our way out of here.
Young Master Fuzi awaits without the heavenly prison to receive us.
Forces also lie in wait beyond the walls of Xianyang.
This day, Xinjiang city shall surely descend into chaos.
They shouted for a long while, yet no one gave reply. Only then did they notice me, standing with my back to the cell's gate.
Unflinching and undisturbed.
just as confusion took them,
The resounding crack of splintering bone pierced the air. The undying god of war,
With a single grasp, crushed the neck of the lowly lackey who had unlocked his chain.
Snapping it cleanly, and glared at them with icy disdain.
the two grandmasters stood utterly dumbfounded.
I turned my gaze upon them, my voice laced with frost.
what was it you just spake?
Fusu is without the heavenly prison, waiting our return? That Xiang city shall surely descend into chaos this day.
The two suddenly burst into maniacal laughter.
Your Majesty, hectares.
This day, a most monumental surprise awaits you. My gaze grew frigid. Thou speakest in empty riddles.
Perish! Suddenly, two strands of spider silk shot forth from the shadows, piercing straight through their throats.
The silhouettes of Jianpo and Mirren flickered and vanished in an instant. I silently invoked the system.
Sacrifice 2 first-tier grandmasters. Ding!
The host hath sacrificed 2 first-tier grandmasters. Congratulations to the host on acquiring 10 eagle-eyed divine crossbowmen. I gazed upon their attributes.
Stand it to find them all at the first tier of the Grandmaster realm. They possess the art to weave inner chi into sword aura, unleashing strikes akin to a marksman's weapon with boundless ammunition.
I rejoiced greatly.
Our defensive might hath ascended to yet another realm.
The remnant dozens I mean in martial combats.
Beholding those who manifested from the very void.
Were struck with such dread that their souls nigh fled their vessels.
Slay them.
Whereupon one of the Hawkeye divine guards did merely raise his hand,
And a dozen streaks of sword aura instantly pierced their brows.
without so much as a whisper of a sound.
I proceeded to offer sacrifice. System. I sacrifice 15 Samian martial combatants.
Host hath sacrificed 15 Vienian martial combatants.
Congratulations, host. Thou hast acquired 10 Hawkeye divine guards.
The host hath made excessive sacrifices this day. The system shall enter a brief respite. I waved my hand dismissively.
Then accompanied by San Yu
And 20 Hawkeye divine guards, I strode forth from the heavenly dungeon.
Verily, a throng of men still gathered without.
Upon beholding me, and San Yu trailing in my wake, the entire congregation was struck dumb. The first-tier Grandmaster combatant, who stood at the vanguard, found his legs bereft of strength and fell to his knees.
With a quivering voice, he cried, "Mercy, your majesty!
Mercy, your majesty.
We have committed no wrong. Pray, let your majesty perceive the truth. Just as I was to speak,
A sudden tempest of swords rained down upon them.
The barrage of blades did pierce the throng through and through.
Even that first-tier Grandmaster was granted no escape.
I cast my gaze upward.
And I beheld the Xianyang city garrison arranged in formation.
They stood arrayed but a short distance away.
Led by none other than Fusu himself.
Upon seeing me, he tumbled from his saddle in haste. Imperial Father,
Art thou unharmed?
thy son hath arrived late to thine aid.
I beseech Imperial Father's forgiveness.
With those words, he fixed a fiery glare upon Zhao Gao and rebuked. Zhao Gao, thine insolence knows no bounds. Thou hast failed in thy duty to protect, allowing Imperial Father to suffer such alarm. Fall to thy knees forthwith, and beg Imperial Father's pardon.
Zhao Gao stood astounded.
The Fuzi of his memory, however great his hatred,
Would never dare speak to him in such a manner. I fixed my gaze upon Fusi. Once murmurs of doubt arose within my heart.
Something was amiss with this youth. Such malice accorded not with Fuzi's nature.
I spoke with chilling resolve. Fuzi,
Dost thou know what thou art doing?
thou seekest to silence a witness through murder. At once, Fuzi rushed to my feet, weeping bitterly. Imperial Father, thou must believe thy son. Thy son truly came to protect your majesty. What talk is this of silencing witnesses?
My son is unjustly accused.
He wept with an abundance of tears and sorrow.
I was nigh convinced that I had wronged him.
Yet just as I was to bid him rise,
In the very instant, he lifted his head.
I caught a fleeting glint of malice in his eyes. A great alarm sounded within my breast.
with a dark sneer, his countenance turned ruthless.
From his sleeve, he drew a dagger steeped in venom and thrust it straight for my heart. His aura swelled in an instant to that of a grandmaster.
He bellowed in fury.
Perish, stout tyrant.
My spirit recoiled in shock. This was not Fuzi at all. San Yu let loose a mighty roar, stepping forth to shield me.
With a single, tremendous blow, he struck the assassin's chest.
Impudent wretch! With a thunderous crash,
The knave was sent hurtling backward.
He spat a great mouthful of blood and glared at Zhang Yu with a twisted visage. Overlord, wherefore dost thou do this?
像用点那都喊错天。
He stood before me, immovable as a mountain. I stared at the fallen assassin, my gaze as cold as frost.
Now art not Fusu.
Who art thou? That manner of striking with that dagger.
Doth indeed bring to our mind a certain man.
Jinkei, who sought our life 5 years past.
Could it be thee, Jinkei? He laughed wildly at the heavens.
Laugh until tears streamed from his eyes.
Tyrant, thou shalt meet a wretched end.
Every soul of thy Yin clan shall perish in agony. From this day forth, the Great Qin Empire shall see its destiny utterly severed.
Tyrant.
Scarce had the words left his lips when a deafening roar echoed from the direction of the imperial palace.
Shan Khan's furious roar resounded. Audacious scoundrels! How dare ye trespass upon the imperial palace?
I turned my head in swift alarm.
Only to behold the direction of the Apam Palace, engulfed in black smoke that plumed toward the heavens.
The one you know is still within.